Why don't we start off with some breaking news from yesterday, which was the CEO of Boeing getting his time at the barrel in Washington. So go ahead, whichever order you want to do this in.
Yeah, we haven't done these in a while. All right, let's see if organizing this has helped. Yeah, it has helped.
I'm leaving on a jet plane.
There we go.
That's our special Boeing music, which we haven't gotten to use in a while. Okay, so the Boeing CEO went and testified before Congress. And he had quite a time of it. Everybody was beating up on this poor guy. I mean, he's just covering up for the deaths of hundreds of people. I don't know why they were so hard on him. Right. But Holly really went to town on him over and over again, hammering him for still having a job. So let's read a little bit. We have some video. Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun was hammered by a Senate panel on Tuesday over the company's safety and quality lapses, a host of whistleblower allegations about company corner cutting and retaliation, and his own pay package. Calhoun, who said in March that he will step down by year's end, defended the plane maker's actions to try to improve manufacturing quality and to fix its tarnished safety reputation in the wake of a mid-air door panel blowout on an Alaska Airlines flight in January. I mean, that's really the least of it. You can't keep up with it. An engine caught on fire from a bird strike on a Boeing yesterday on the way from, I think, New Zealand to Australia, or vice versa. The company has still not named a replacement for Calhoun, who took over after its previous leader was ousted for the handling of 2 fatal Boeing crashes. And we'll get to this. I have been saying for years that guy should be in prison. Dennis Muhlenberg, he belongs in prison. He is responsible for the manslaughter, negligent homicide of hundreds of people. He knew those planes were not safe, and he let them fly anyway. He is the real-life mayor in Jaws. Quote, much has been said about Boeing's culture. We've heard those concerns loud and clear. Our culture is far from perfect, but we are taking action and making progress, Calhoun told the subcommittee. Hours before the hearing, the Senate subcommittee released whistleblower claims on Tuesday from Sam Mohawk, a quality assurance investigator at Boeing, alleging the company lost track of parts that were damaged or not up to specification, and that, quote, those parts are likely being installed on airplanes, unquote. The parts Mohawk flagged were in Boeing's Renton, Washington plant, where the company makes its best-selling 737 MAX. I never would have guessed those parts would have gone on that plane. Mohawk said he was retaliated against and that he was told by supervisors to hide evidence from the FAA, according to a memo shared by the committee on Tuesday. Dozens of important parts were stored outside during an FAA inspection. Hey, guys, we got a big rug out there? All right, sweep them under. Just put the rug over them. Including 42 rudders, as well as winglets and stabilizers, Mohawk alleged in claims with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the memo said. Cheese it, fellas, it's the cops. Boeing issued a written warning against Mohawk, saying he engaged in, quote, unacceptable/disruptive behavior or communication, according to Mohawk's complaint, which the subcommittee also made public. It said he could be discharged if the behavior continued. Mohawks also alleged the company reduced staffing during his shift, making it difficult to complete tasks. A Boeing spokeswoman said the company received the complaints Monday night and that staff are reviewing them. Quote, we continuously encourage employees to report all concerns as our priority is to ensure the safety of our airplanes and the flying public, she said. I'm sorry, that's just funny. We, quote, we thoroughly investigate every report, including allegations uncovered in the Senate's work, the agency said Tuesday. The FAA declined to comment on the specifics of the latest allegations. Mohawk is not testifying before the Senate subcommittee's hearing. The hearing and new whistleblower claims are further complicating matters for Boeing. The company already faces potential U.S. prosecution after the Justice Department said last month that the plane maker violated a 2021 settlement tied to 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019 that claimed 346 lives. A flight control system Boeing included on the MAX, the latest generation of a jet that has flown since the late 1960s, was implicated in the crashes. That agreement, which protected the company and its executives from facing criminal charges tied to the crashes, would have expired just days after the Alaska Airlines incident in January. The Department of Justice has until July 7th to decide whether to prosecute. Okay, so understand the reason that Dennis Muhlenberg is not in prison is because Boeing got a sweetheart deal where they could avoid prosecution if they corrected the problems. What's 346 people? Water under the bridge. Just don't do it again. So they are clearly in violation of that agreement. So now the question is the FAA, is the Justice Department actually going to prosecute a company that, based on my research, is the second largest donator to political campaigns, second largest donor, and the 13th largest lobbyist in Washington? Are they going to put these people in jail as they should be?
Well, you remember after the 2008 market crash, the phrase too big to fail came in, right? We had to bail out the banks because they're too big to fail. And then the online meme became, well, these executives are too big to jail. Too big to fail means too big to jail. Well, in the case of Boeing, you may have a case where they are too big to jail. Because as you've mentioned over and over again throughout this whole episode, what happens to the overall economic landscape in the country if you essentially prosecute the airplane manufacturers and no one wants to fly? Like, what happens if no one flies anymore?
Right. You can prosecute.
I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying that is why that's part of why, not entirely why. They spend a lot of money lobbying the government. That's part of why they got the sweetheart deal in the first place, just because the harm to society overall would be significant if this confidence in a major airline manufacturer were shattered.
Okay, so I would say that plane has flown, so to speak. There are lots of numbers now. We know we did a report on this. I'm not sure if we did it here on Jimmy's show about people are willing to pay $500 more to not fly on a Boeing.
Sure.
So that's done. That's done. They've lost their reputation. Also, remember the executives they'd be prosecuting, I think mostly are not at Boeing anymore. Muhlenberg's retired. Most of these people are not there anymore. So it wouldn't have the same impact on the current management and leadership. Now, in terms of holding Boeing, the corporate entity itself, liable, I am not sure how that works, but who would really object to the government taking over Boeing at this point other than the most staunch libertarians? Because clearly Boeing is like the poster child for the idea that capitalism does not work for public needs such as an airline. This is why most of the nations in Europe have a national airline. They are not for-profit companies in the way that they are here.
Yep.
Look at why isn't Airbus having these problems? And every time I say this, I get people come out of the woodwork. I don't know if they're bots. Oh, I was a mechanic for 20 years. Airbus has problems too. Okay, get back to me when on an almost daily basis shit is falling off Airbuses.
Right.
Right. Like, I understand as this article gets into that they share some suppliers, but clearly the way these planes are being put together, which is what the whistleblowers keep citing, is not the same. They're not having their planes manufactured by the same people in the same places as Boeing is. So that seems to be where the problems are coming up. Several victims' family members attended Tuesday's hearing. Relatives of MAX crash victims met with DOJ officials late last month to urge the U.S. to prosecute. At the start of the hearing, Calhoun stood and apologized to the victims' families, many of whom held photos of their lost loved ones. We'll see that. We have that video. Quote, We're here because we want Boeing to succeed, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat of Connecticut, the subcommittee's chair, said at the start of the hearing on Tuesday, pointing to the jobs Boeing provides and the products it supplies to the U.S. military. Quote, "It's not enough for Boeing to shrug its shoulders and say mistakes happen," you think? Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri, accused Calhoun and Boeing of strip mining the company by cutting corners and criticized his compensation package of nearly $33 million, up 45% last year from 2022. Quote, "And frankly, sir, I think it's a travesty that you are still in your job," Hawley said. The FAA has taken a hard line against Boeing, with Administrator Mike Whitaker saying the regulator will keep inspectors on the ground at the company's facilities until the agency is satisfied with safety improvements. The FAA had already halted Boeing's ability to increase production of the MAX, its best-selling plane. That's such a shame they're not allowing them to make more of these death traps. Whitaker last month said it would likely be several months before lifting that restriction. The company's shares are down nearly 33% this year through Tuesday's close, compared with a roughly 15% gain in the S&P 500. All right, so let's take a look at some of Calhoun's appearance on Capitol Hill. So this is his apology to the families of the victims of the planes that Boeing knew were unsafe and let people fly on anyway.
I would like to apologize on behalf of all of our Boeing associates spread throughout the world, past and present, for your losses. They're gut-wrenching. And I apologize for the grief that we have caused. And I want you to know we are totally committed in their memory to work and focus on safety for as long as we're employed by Boeing.
All right, so Josh Hawley, this was one of his better moments lately. He really kept going after the compensation package, as he should.
Senator, I stand by what I said, and I want to assure the great employees in your state that that is not the way we operate the company, and it never will be. And if you would like my chief engineer to talk about what he sees and
No,
hears,
I want to hear from you, because what I hear from you is a lot of this team does that and that team does that, and I listen to the whistleblowers, but I don't meet with them. And I've heard about all this stuff that you Congress have meddlesomely asked for because the public wants to see it. Gosh darn them, but you actually haven't supervised any of it. I've heard that. It's a lot of it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. But meanwhile, you're getting paid a heck of a lot of money. It's unbelievable. If anybody's coming out of this deal good, it's you. Why haven't you resigned?
Senator, I'm sticking this through. I'm proud of having taken the job. I'm proud of our
this
safety record, and I am
You're proud of
very
this safety
proud
record.
of our Boeing people.
You're proud of this safety record.
I am proud of every action we have taken.
Every action you've taken.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow. There's some news.
Okay, now remember, obviously we can't show all of this. This is in a hearing in which Blumenthal, we're about to see Blumenthal in another clip, shows the data that Boeing sent over, calls it gobbledygook, and Calhoun is forced to agree that what Boeing sent as its data is just gobbledygook, just indecipherable. He agreed that whistleblowers have been threatened and retaliated against, and he's saying he's proud of their safety record. That is amazing. That is amazing.
The manufacturing issues, the retaliation against whistleblowers, non-conforming parts, quality inspections skipped, and issues concealed from the FAA, evidence hidden, all have continued. In fact, there is near overwhelming evidence, in my view as a former prosecutor, that prosecution should be pursued.
The U.S. Justice Department.
Okay. All right. Somebody had to say it. I just never thought it was going to be him. Yeah. Okay. Yes. If they do not prosecute Boeing, that is just, I mean, it won't shock anybody. It's going to shock people. Our system is so corrupt. The shocking thing is going to be if they do the right thing and prosecute them.
Yes.
But I guess we're going to know by July 7th, according to this article, whether they're going to prosecute Boeing as they should. Boeing should be nationalized, in my opinion. I don't see how you could argue that the military taking over Boeing is not going to be better than what Boeing is right now. And something that was not in that article that Jake took out, but it is important to note, Boeing is planning on buying Spirit, which is constructing their planes. They're planning on buying it to fix the problems. Spirit is also one of the suppliers to Airbus. So Airbus can file an injunction, from what I understand, to say, hey, we cannot have our competitor also be our supplier. This is giving them too much of a monopoly. If this is not an example of capitalism not working, I don't know what is. You've wound up in a position where you have two of the plane manufacturers that the flying public is entirely dependent on for manufacturing planes. There is no other company that is even close to being able to ramp up to supplying the industry's needs. Are both dependent on the same deeply flawed supplier that has been caught cutting corners in order to maximize its profit and hiring drunks off the street to put these planes together with Dove soap. That's a system that works. That's a marketplace that works.
I mean, if they nationalize Boeing, that'll free up a lot of advertising space on Meet the Press, right? Those Sunday morning shows. That's where you see all those Boeing ads, right? I mean, it's going to open up the ad market, right? Because they won't have to bribe the government anymore. They'll just be the government, right?
They'll be the government.
They'll just be under that umbrella. So that'll make things much more, streamlined. That's the word they use, right? Streamline everything that way.
Vertical integration.
Vertical integration, exactly. That's that business lingo I was looking for. Yeah, absolutely. So that would be something to look forward to. And yes, obviously, that is what should happen. It's a no-brainer.
Please clap.